Now begins the recitation of the revelation word of the Divine Avataric Master, Paramasaptana Adidar Samraj. This is my Divine Ruchira Shakti from the Dawn Horse Testament. I am, by all my divine avataric means, transcendentally spiritually present, divinely blessing all in all, by my mere and always blessing transcendental spiritual presence. My avatarically self-manifested divine blessing work is the transcendental spiritual transmission work, or giving work of the divine heart itself. My avatarically self-transmitted divine transcendental spiritual presence is blessing work. The transcendental spiritual transmission or grace giving of my free, transcendental, and inherently spiritual divine self-radiance or divine love bliss, which is the bright itself. My avataric self-transmission of my divine transcendental spiritual blessing is heart grace. My divine self-giving of the transcendental spiritual gift that is the intrinsically egoless, bright, divine heart itself. My avataric self-manifestation of my divine transcendental spiritual transmission work, or blessing work, is my transcendental spiritual self-transmission, or divine self-giving, of my Ruchira Shakti, the graceful divine heart power that is the intrinsically egoless, bright divine heart itself. My always me revealing spontaneous avataric self-transmission of my divine transcendental spiritual and always blessing presence, whereby by me transcendentally spiritually initiated devotees are given the grace of most profound true devotion to me, by their heart feeling of my divine transcendental spiritual brightness, and my every otherwise always specifically given avataric act of divine transcendental spiritual baptism, whereby by me transcendently spiritually initiated devotees are whole bodily, or in total psychophysical terms, awakened to by me transcendently spiritually activated and always me revealing and truly ego transcending practice and realization is Ruchira Shaktipat, my divinely transcendently spiritually initiatory avataric giving of my perfectly attractive and inherently love blissful grace power, which is the transcendently spiritually self-bright divine grace power of the intrinsically egoless heart itself. Ruchira Shaktipat is avatarically and uniquely given by me, the very and avatarically self-manifested and divinely self-revealing and transcendental and perfectly subjective and inherently spiritual and intrinsically egoless and inherently perfect and self-evidently divine person, who is the intrinsically egoless bright divine heart itself, or the self-existing and self-radiant and intrinsically egoless divine self-nature, self-condition, and self-state itself, which is the self-evidently divine source condition of all and all. My avatarically self-transmitted divine Ruchira Shakti, which is the perfectly subjective divine heart power that is the intrinsically egoless, bright divine heart itself, and by means of which I awaken in my true devotee the eventually most perfect realization of my avatarically self-revealed transcendental, inherently spiritual, intrinsically egoless, and self-evidently divine self-nature, self-condition, and self-state itself, originates eternally prior to the cosmic mandala and eternally prior to the circle or the circular pattern of the combined frontal or descending line and spinal or ascending line of the cosmically patterned body-mind complex, and eternally prior to the arrow or the breathless and moveless but upwardly polarized central axis of the cosmically patterned body-mind complex. Therefore, my avatarically self-transmitted and perfectly subjectively me-revealing divine Ruchira Shaktipat is senior and most perfectly prior to conditional or conventional yogic Shaktipat, or spiritual transmission that originates dependently or as a merely conditionally arising and manifestly objective cosmic power within the cosmic domain and within the circle and the arrow of the cosmically patterned body-mind complex. Conditional or conventional and merely conditionally or cosmically arising yogic Shakti patterned conventional and merely conditionally or cosmically significant yogic practices are intended or altogether activated to stimulate movements of attention in the cosmically patterned and ego-based body-mind complex, and thereby to accomplish various conditional or cosmic and necessarily, yet ego-bound goals by means of a process of conditional ascent of the manifestly objective cosmic power and of attention itself, from the base to the crown of the hierarchically structured body-mind complex. My avatarically self-transmitted divine Ruchira Shaktipat is inherently disposed, and the thereby transcendently spiritually initiated divine yogic practice of the only by me revealed and given radical reality where the heart is by me founded and by me empowered to directly dissolve and at last to most perfectly transcend attention itself in my avatarically self-revealed and transcendental and perfectly subjective and inherently spiritual and intrinsically egoless and inherently perfect and self-evidently divine person and self-condition. This is my divine Ruchira Shaktipat from the Dawn Horse Testament. Here ends the recitation of the revelation word of the divine avataric master, Paramasaptana Adidar Samraj.